So, in addition to the hormone shifts that are happening in midlife, which are contributing to the risk factors for more belly fat accumulation and the health risks, we've also got the lifestyle factors for women in perimenopause that are compounding the problem. Poor dietary patterns. Modern life is fast and it's busy, and we're not eating well. Standard American diet is not good. And you guys know it, right? There's not rocket science, but we're eating high sugar, processed foods, erratic eating habits, skipping meals, then overeating, right? Falling off track on the weekends. Every holiday we're off the rails. That's worsening insulin resistance and inflammation, contributing to belly fat storage. Um, Lack of effective exercise. We have to get our exercise right. Too much cardio, we're not building muscle. We're ramping up hormones of inflammation, which combined with poor eating is just triggering more inflammation. It's contributing more to muscle loss, more to insulin resistance and slower metabolism. Okay. So we're not working out effectively to work with our metabolic dysfunction. We're not working out effectively to work with our hormones, considering the fact that we're losing that muscle. And so that compounds the problem. I mean, all exercise is good exercise. I'm a physio. That's really important. But when it comes to belly fat, we've got to be more strategic and intentional if we want to get rid of it. All exercise is not the same. Okay. I work with a lot of women who are running a ton. They've been running a ton. So the other factor that compounds the problem is our hormones are changing in perimenopause in these 40s, 50s, 60s phase time. Like, what were we doing in our 20s and 30s? If we were dieting the whole time and skipping meals and surviving on coffee and like kids scraps and processed foods and fast foods and deep fried foods, right? Those lifestyle factors, or you weren't exercising at all, you're putting your health last while you took care of everybody else. Um, that hits you in midlife when those hormones change. And so you have bad habits, and those bad habits you've had for years, and they compound, they hit you hard in perimenopause. Sleep deprivation and chronic stress, which a lot of women have, right? Increase hunger hormones, increase inflammation, increase insulin resistance. It's just like a hormonal mess when we're sleep deprived and we're chronically stressed. And the thing is, we get used to these things, right? We normalize these things. But at the metabolic level, it's like chipping away at you, chipping away at you, chipping away at you. And then the belly fat accumulates, and then the insulin resistance begins, and then the prediabetes and the diabetes and the cardiovascular issue. So it's like at the beginning stages, it's no big deal. My body doesn't even, it's fine. It's not fine later on. Okay. And then the end of the night, we're having some snacks. We're tired. We put the kids to bed. It's been a long week at work. It's very stressful. Relationships, traffic, all the news, all the things going on in the world. And we sit down, we have a glass of wine or two, right? Again, increasing belly fat, worsening insulin resistance. So all of these things are just combining and just really crashing. It's a perfect storm for belly fat storage in midlife. Um, it's a perfect storm, and it's a real it's where so many women are stuck. Okay. And so what happens when, again, I've talked to so many of you guys. I've been doing this for a while now. I've reviewed a lot of intakes. I've talked to a lot of women, and the common mistakes is people say, I'm doing everything right. Nothing's working. My midsection's getting bigger. My body won't drop weight. And when I look at what you've been doing, um, you're, I mean, you're not doing everything right. You're not focusing on improving metabolic dysfunction. We're actually doing all the things that the diet culture and the fitness challenges on the internet tell you to do, but they're making everything worse because they're increasing inflammation, increasing cortisol, and contributing to the insulin resistance and belly fat, slowing metabolism, promoting fat storage, right? So cutting all carbs, stressful in the body. Our bodies in midlife are not as tolerant to carbohydrates as they used to be. because we're losing muscle mass and becoming more insulin resistant, but that doesn't mean cut all the carbs. Humans are very extreme. A little bit of carbs, like carbs are not great for us. We're going to cut all of them. But women need carbs. You need good carbs for your thyroid. So if you're not eating any and you're like, it doesn't work. It might work short term, but again, if you lose some weight, not in the belly, and you're exhausted and you're craving and you're miserable and you're irritable, and then you gain it all back, it's not working, right? So that's a common mistake we see. A fasting, training fasted, it works at first until it stops working. Women tell me that all the time. It worked at first, sure, because it curbs calorie intake, great, but it doesn't solve the underlying problem of the metabolic dysfunction, the insulin resistance, and it ends up just women do better in a fed state. We need to think about taming inflammation, regular meals at regular intervals, balance, giving your body what it needs to thrive. And if we're extreme fasting and extreme dieting and extreme cutting and extreme restricting, trying to lose weight, right? It's spiking cortisol, it's spiking inflammation, it's triggering more belly fat storage, those cortisol receptors in your belly. And you're losing weight, but not belly fat, okay? Ramping up cardio, right? That increases cortisol, but it doesn't build muscle. We're losing muscle, type 2 muscle fibers in midlife. We need that to improve. It's one of the core foundations of restoring insulin resistance and metabolic function is building muscle. So cardio alone isn't going to do it. A ton of cardio. So exercising more, a ton of cardio is usually what people do, combined with low calorie, low carb fasting, just what so many women come to me trying, doing all the right things. That's a perfect storm for losing more muscle, which further impacts insulin resistance. And it triggers more inflammation and storage. So these things aren't we're helping. And then of course there's like the belly fat core challenge. Like you can't spot reduce belly fat. You can't spot reduce getting rid of belly fat. Core workouts. I just had someone yesterday or the other day ask me, well, what core workout should I do? And core workouts will strengthen your abdominal muscles, but they'll do nothing to target getting rid of that deep abdominal visceral fat that we're talking about. You can't spot reduce fat loss. Core workouts aren't going to fix this problem. Remember, the problem is metabolic dysfunction, insulin resistance. Okay, we have to solve for those problems, and core challenges aren't the answer to that. These methods fight against your hormones and worsen the metabolic dysfunction, and they don't work. Again, they might work short term, and that's, I guess, awesome, but I don't want short-term results. I want to be long-term healthy. I want to be fit, lean, strong, metabolically, emotionally healthy for life. I want to be playing with my grandkids. I want to be hiking adventure all over the world. I want to be traveling. I got things to do. I don't think about short-term goals. I think long-term. Is this strategy going to get me short-term results, or is it going to keep my body metabolically really healthy for the long term? Right? That's how my brain works, and that's how I want to get you guys thinking. Okay. So simple ways to know if belly fat is a problem for you. Now, most of you know, right? I'm gaining weight in the midsection and it won't go away. I've tried other weight loss strategies and they worked short term, but then I gained it all back. I've tried other weight loss strategies and I didn't lose belly fat. Those are all strong indicators of insulin resistance and inflammation. Okay, this means the issue isn't about calories, working out more, eating less, willpower, discipline. It's about the fact that you have metabolic dysfunction, and weight loss diets are not going to solve the problem. Again, you're going after the symptom. The symptom is the weight. You got to go after the root cause of the problem, which is the metabolic dysfunction, the insulin resistance, the loss of muscle, the systemic inflammation. Okay, other signs and symptoms are fatigue. You're tired after a full night's sleep. You're tired throughout the day. You've got brain fog, irritability, mood swings, trouble concentrating, cravings, crashes during the day, low energy after eating, again, stubborn belly fat, difficulty losing weight. And like you're just noticing your body turning more into like just holding more of that weight in the midsection. And maybe you're losing weight on your arms and your legs and stuff, but the belly fat isn't going away. It's getting bigger. Those are symptoms that something's going on. Again, we talked about waist measurement, right? For women, a waist circumference of 35 inches or more is linked to significantly higher risk of insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and other metabolic dysfunction. So you can take a waist measurement. So again, the narrowest part of your waist, just above your belly button. The other quick and effective way to assess your risk is to take a waist to hip measurement. So measure your waist, take that waist measurement, and then measure your hips at the widest point and divide the waist measurement by the hip measurement. And for women, a waist to hip ratio greater than 0.85 is indicative of increased risk of metabolic syndrome. Okay, insulin resistance, cardiovascular disease, all the metabolic syndromes. So those are a couple, there's some signs and symptoms, and there's a couple ways that you can be like, oh yeah, this is an issue that I need to take seriously. And I want you guys to take it seriously. This is a serious issue. It's not just about aesthetics. It's about your long-term health. Okay. What else can I say here? A DEXA scan, that's the other way. That's the gold standard way. So that's a dual energy X-ray absorptiometry, absorptiometry, otherwise known as DEXA. And it's the gold standard for assessing body fat distribution. You're going to get your bone mineral density. You're going to know exactly how much body fat you have, what percentage of it, of your body mass is fat, is muscle mass, is bone density, and it will it's the most accurate way to measure how much visceral fat you have. Okay, so it's the only way to do that. You can look it up in your area. You can talk to your doctor about how you get that. And it's something interesting to, if you have access to it, you can track yourself year over year and see where you're going. If you like to track things like that. But it's going to tell you how much visceral fat you have. And for women, essential body fat should be 10 to 13%. That's necessary for vital body functions. We don't want zero body fat. But our increased risk of metabolic dysfunction comes when our body fat is above 32%. And we really don't want much in visceral fat at all. Like we don't want any, like very little visceral fat. So the DEXA is the only way you can test that. Okay, regular, normal, average people are between 25 and 31. That's average. Doesn't mean you're in your fittest, healthiest, finest form. Healthy and fit range is 21 to 24% body fat for women. Okay. Again, DEXA is the only way to really test that, but look at the signs and symptoms, look at the measurements, look at your body, notice how it's been changing, notice how you've been feeling. Is this an issue for you? Do you need to focus on it, right? Just do a little self-assessment, a little objectivity with yourself. And then of course, go and check in with your doctor and get some other testing, right? Your doctor can also do he can do blood work, fasting blood glucose, hemoglobin A1C, fasting insulin, do a lipid profile, ask for assessment of your inflammatory markers and hormone testing, right? That's what your doctor has the ability to do. And these are all metabolic markers. And so you can talk to your doctor like getting these tests and then, getting some recommendations from the medical perspective. Really important because we don't want this to go unmanaged. And again, remember what I said, 88% of the American population is metabolically unwell, they say. And then many people have no idea. Like most people, there's tons of people that have prediabetes. And from what I read I don't know where I got this quote from but people are walking around all the time. They have no idea. They just feel terrible. So they hop on the next diet, just gaining weight and feeling terrible, gaining weight and feeling terrible. My midsection's getting bigger, but they've never been diagnosed with anything. So again, these are serious issues. So you want to get some of these tests done, get some baseline stuff done, talk to your doctor about medical management. It's very important so that it doesn't progress, and get some of this stuff. So you are like, yep, this is an issue for me. My blood glucose, my A1C is getting high. My fasting blood glucose is high. This is not where I want it to be. I need to take this seriously. Okay, so talk to your doctor, and then regardless if you're just starting to gain belly fat, you're just noticing it, regardless of if you've been losing weight and not losing belly fat and gaining it back, and you're like, I think I've got an issue. If your waist is starting to get bigger, you're beyond that 35 inches. If you're like, yeah, I got some risk factors here, or your doctor said you have insulin resistance, your doctor said you have prediabetes, your doctor said you have diabetes. There's a lot that you can do for yourself starting today, okay, to permanently get rid of belly fat. You must work with your hormones, not against them. You got to work on reversing that insulin resistance, building muscle, and priming your metabolic function. Okay, regardless if you're at the beginning stages of this or you're more towards the other end of the spectrum, right? Yeah, my doctor said I've got diabetes. There's a lot you can do. So your doctor will talk to you about medications and options that way, and you must have those conversations. But then you got to look inside. Okay, what can I do? Because dieting is not working, right? You can't diet your way out of this. You have to, if you want to permanently lose the belly fat and you want to permanently reverse this metabolic dysfunction, I've created a system called the Metabolic Rehab Program, okay, Metabolic Rehab Method. And in here, we target what you can do to reverse, to work with your hormones, to reverse insulin resistance, to build lean muscle, and to restore that metabolic function. And there's 5 components: the rehab method, rehab, reset your nutrition, effective exercise, halt inflammation, act like it matters, adopt a growth mindset, and attack your excuses. And then the B is build consistency and resilience. That's the rehab method. There's so much that you can do. And I had a client once who was diagnosed with diabetes, feeling terrible, belly fat, exhaustion, like irritable, struggling to get out of bed, struggling to focus. Finally went to the doctor and said, yeah, you've got diabetes. Here's your prescription. Diet and exercise won't help. And I was like, what? That's insane. And I think doctors say that because I don't think they all say that, that's for sure. But a lot of people won't do much. They just take the medication. You got to take your medications if you need them. Absolutely. And that's a conversation for you to have with your doctor. But you still have to take care of your own body. There's a lot that you can do. And this is reversible. This metabolic dysfunction is reversible. You just have to understand why it's happening. Then you have to do the right things to reverse it, right? And that's what I teach. I'm a physical therapist by trade. This is my jam. This is what I do. And this is after 20 years of working with people. I know where you guys are going wrong. I know what's going on in your head, what's keeping you stuck, and I know what you've got to do. Okay. And I created the metabolic rehab method. Reset your nutrition, effective exercise, halt inflammation, act like it matters, attack your excuses, and adopt a growth mindset, and build consistency and resilience. So I know this has been a long workshop so far, but I think this is really valuable information. And I'm going to go through each of these topics one by one. So this is going to be longer than I expected, but I think it's really valuable. And if you're still listening, I think you also think it's really valuable. So I'm going to take you through the 5 steps of the metabolic rehab method. Okay.